In the dimly lit dorm room, bathed in Samuel stood over his sleeping roommate, Adele, who lay peacefully on the bed. Contempt filled Samuel's expression as he thought bitterly that even his sleeping face looked dumb and irritating. His resentment deepened as he recalled past insults, remembering that Adele had even insulted his family. He internally vowed that even if he himself was in the wrong, he would never be the one to apologize first. Sighing deeply in frustration, he lamented having so much to do already, questioning if he really had to waste energy on some lowlife like Adele. Yet, a conflicting memory surfaced: the striking presence Adele had shown in class. Images flashed Adele radiating a powerful, almost menacing aura, perhaps alongside other figures, triggering an unsettling reaction in Samuel. Seeing that made my heart throb as if it were being squeezed, he admitted internally, recognizing it felt like a familiar pain experienced before, though he couldn't understand why it was happening now. Suddenly, a sharp jolt ran through him. He doubled over, clutching his side with a pained groan as intense discomfort radiated through his body. His eyes widened in alarm, recognizing the sensation, asking himself, "Damn it, is gluttony's rampage starting again?" Sweat beaded on his forehead as he gritted his teeth, battling the overwhelming feeling. "He's starving beyond control," he thought frantically, clutching his stomach where a sickly green energy pulsed visibly. "It feels like his insides are drying up. It's too much to bear." Just then, Adele stirred slightly, letting out a soft murmur in his sleep. Samuel looked over, his frustration peaking. He was starving, and now he had to look at that smug face till morning? He seriously wanted to punch him in the face. He slumped onto the edge of his own bed, groaning softly from the internal pain. Morning arrived, the clock tower outside chiming the hour. Adele sat up in bed, stretching slightly with a soft groan, wondering what time it was and if it was morning already. Sunlight streamed through the large window, and the steady ticking of a clock was audible. Glancing towards the window, Adele noticed a familiar sight. "Is that the same bird from yesterday?" he mused, seeing it had come again this morning. A thoughtful, almost calculating smile spread across his face. In Saitan, which is strict about outside intrusions, he pondered, wondering about the implications of bringing in a non-cadet lifeform. He concluded swiftly, someone must be trying to spy on him. Stretching nonchalantly by the window, the frame creaking slightly, he considered the possibilities, wondering if it could be Instructor Ares, who seemed most wary of him. A quick mana scan confirmed the bird outside was not an illusion but a definite living creature. He briefly considered trying to tame it with food, extending his hand towards the branch as if offering something and calling softly, "Here, come on." However, his attention quickly shifted. Realizing the time, he thought that his roommate Samuel was probably already off eating, deciding he should get going himself before breakfast ended. A moment of confusion hit him as he wondered where the dining hall was again. He arrived at the classroom later. A woman comes and greets cheerfully, "Good morning, everyone." Adele meanwhile revealed internally that he had gotten lost looking for the dining hall and missed breakfast. Now worried if he could focus in class today while hungry, he took his seat. The instructor, a woman with wavy gray hair, entered and announced she had an important announcement, asking if everyone was present. Adele internally questioned the nature of this sudden announcement. The instructor revealed, "Today during homeroom, we'll be selecting a class president." Adele looked surprised, a murmur passing through the class as he thought, "A class president, all of a sudden?" A student with greenish hair raised his hand, asking how the class president would be chosen. The instructor explained she was initially going to have them vote among candidates but had changed her mind. With a sly smile, she announced the class president she was appointing. A horned girl named Fran immediately stood up, radiating confidence against a sparkly pink background, declaring it a wise decision. Adele, recognizing the name, thought internally, as expected, "It's Fran, just like in the novel." He added that with his personality, Adele probably couldn't be class president anyway. Fran addressed the class enthusiastically, "Let us lead the class together from now on. Everyone, serve me as your king." Adele mused that Fran was likely the most suitable choice. While his intelligence was perhaps lacking, his charisma and buffing abilities were top-notch. Another student questioned Fran's appointment, asking about Adele, who seemed capable enough. Fran dismissed the idea haughtily, "A half-demon as class president?" Continuing the classroom discussion about the new class president, another student chimed in, asking, "What about Samuel? Fran scoffed dismissively, admitting, he's kind of scary. Adele, seated nearby, smiled slightly, internally pleased, wondering if his performance in the first class had really been that impressive, finding it nice to hear his name mentioned. Fran continued confidently, stating, well, it seems like Fran is pretty much the obvious pick, puffing out her chest proudly. She urged the instructor impatiently, don't be shy, instructor, go ahead and announce it. The instructor sighed quietly before stating firmly, the class president isn't Cadet Fran. Fran reacted with dramatic shock, her blue eyes widening as purple energy seemed to crackle around her. The instructor smiled slightly, continuing, Class A's president is, her gaze landing on the red-haired young man, Pixie Adele. Adele looked utterly bewildered, questioning aloud, what? Surrounded by floating question marks representing his confusion. That makes no sense. Naming a half-demon like me as class president. His thoughts were interrupted by the instructor, whose eyes glowed with an ethereal blue light. Another student called out enthusiastically, President Adele. Please do your best to lead the class. Adele, still slightly stunned, managed a hesitant, yes. The instructor then announced she had to teach another class and would just leave some further announcements. She informed them that to prepare for the midterm exams at the semester's end, classes would focus on practical training. The training, she elaborated, would be done in teams of 3, instructing them to form teams by the end of the day. A female student with pink hair looked thoughtful about the team formation. Adele closed his eyes, contemplating the upcoming midterms and practical training. He reasoned internally that if it was practical training at Saitan, then most likely it would involve killing humans, because killing was essential in combat in this world. Concluding the homeroom, the instructor added one final point, calling out, Cadet Fran? Fran looked up questioningly. The instructor smiled sweetly, yet delivered a firm warning, if you speak informally to me again, I'll give you private supplementary lessons. Fran visibly flinched, clearly intimidated by the threat of extra training. Adele observed with amusement, thinking internally that she was putting Fran in his place effectively. As the instructor prepared to leave, she added one final instruction, also, class president, please submit your team list during final period. She wished the class well, saying, then, everyone do your best in today's class. Adele, now designated class president, watched her go, internally contemplating the nature of the upcoming practical training. He touched his chin thoughtfully, wondering if it involved combat simulations using dolls like the previous day. Dismissing the thought as illogical, he recalled the novel's timeline, concluding it wasn't yet time for the attack on the human world depicted in the story. Regardless, he determined, the priority now is forming a solid team. Glancing towards the pink-haired girl sitting nearby, he felt confident, thinking that he had already more or less picked his teammate. Meanwhile, the instructor exited the classroom and walked down the corridor, observed by 2 waiting figures. An imposing man with spiky purple hair, a distinct cross tattoo on his neck, and a stern expression approached her with deliberate footsteps. The instructor, Instructor Idea, was seated at a desk in another room when the man burst in forcefully, shouting her name, Instructor Idea. She looked up calmly, greeting him with a simple, "You're here?" The man, clearly agitated, demanded, "What were you thinking?" Idea simply smiled, remarking it was nice to see his serious face again, deflecting his anger. Impatiently, the man retorted that wasn't what he came to hear, demanding furiously, "Why did you appoint that guy as class president?" Idea replied smoothly, noting it only happened that morning and praising his extensive network by saying, "You must have eyes and ears all over Saitan, Senior." The man slammed his hand on the desk with a sharp sound, insisting she couldn't possibly not know the implications of giving Adele the role of class president. Idea simply affirmed calmly that of course she knew the implications. She continued her agitated argument, declaring that it was only temporary, but appointing Adele gave her command over Class A as a unit. He yelled that she still went through with it and was out of her mind for doing so. His frustration mounting, Senior insisted it was not too late, even now, and demanded that she change the class president to someone else immediately. He finished with an ominous threat of what would happen if she didn't comply. Idea met his intense gaze, her own expression calm but resolute, acknowledging the threat without flinching. Instructor Idea calmly affirmed she knew the implications of appointing Adele as class president. The imposing man with spiky purple hair, Senior, retorted incredulously, asking if she knew and still did that. Idea, leaning back with arms crossed, responded with a blunt no. Senior, clutching his head in frustration, exclaimed this was driving him crazy. Idea then stated plainly, Senior, I like that student. She elaborated on her reasoning. Adele was top tier in ability, not arrogant like the children of the 7 deadly sins, and backed by the bear's family, guaranteeing his identity. Senior, however, remained unconvinced, arguing that just because someone's identity was verified didn't mean they were trustworthy, emphasizing that nothing was more dangerous than a blind sword. Idea, with a sigh, crossed her arms again, asserting she would handle her class herself and requesting Senior stay out of it. She declared that while she might be a new instructor, she was confident in her eye for talent. Senior, his frustration mounting, slammed his hand on the desk again, shouting her name, Instructor Idea. Idea simply walked away, leaving Senior fuming. Alone, Senior cursed, damn it. He lamented internally that he should have taken over that class no matter what, feeling he shouldn't have left someone that dangerous to Idea. More importantly, he recalled the half-demon who gave him an unforgettable wound in a past battle, noting that, for some reason, that individual's aura and Adele's were disturbingly similar. While the chance of Adele being that guy's kin was low, he couldn't let it go, it felt too suspicious. He admitted he still hadn't figured out what that guy was after. Suddenly, a small bird landed on his shoulder, emitting a soft chirp. Senior observed that so far, nothing seemed particularly strange about Adele's activities. He instructed the bird, keep watching him. Don't take your eyes off him for a second. Meanwhile, in what appeared to be a library, a group of students chatted. One with light purple hair and pointed ears smiled, another with a prominent neck tattoo listened, and a third, with small horns and spiky blonde hair, looked on with a friendly expression, the atmosphere suggesting camaraderie in typical student life, unaware of the intense scrutiny surrounding one of their classmates. Adele observed the bustling classroom, noting everyone was busy forming teams during break time. He lamented internally that despite being class president, no one had asked him yet, wondering with a self-deprecating smile if it was because his face looked shady. Just then, a student approached him, hesitating slightly, asking if he wanted to team up with him. Samuel, seated nearby with another student, overheard and commented dismissively that he didn't really care, as long as Adele didn't hold him back. The student who approached Adele thanked Samuel before introducing his friend to Adele. Adele, witnessing this interaction, thought with a sigh about how even someone like him found teammates, questioning why no one was coming to him. Resigning himself, he concluded he had no choice but to make the first move himself, cracking his knuckles with determination. Approaching the pink-haired girl he had noticed earlier, Adele greeted her simply, "Hello." The girl, appearing slightly startled, let out a small sound of surprise. Adele explained calmly that he had been scanning her mana and asked if he surprised her, adding that her mana levels were good and she possessed healing abilities, making her a perfect teammate. He reintroduced himself, "I'm Adele, we briefly met before," then inquired if she had found a team yet. The girl nervously replied that she hadn't yet. Adele declared it perfect and asked for her name. After a brief pause, she hesitantly replied, "Luna." Adele complimented her lovely name and extended the invitation, asking how about joining his team and stating that being in the same team as the class president would benefit her. Luna, her eyes wide and slightly alarmed, stammered that it was a bit sudden. Pressing his advantage, Adele leaned closer to Luna, his voice a low murmur as he reminded her there wasn't much time until the final period to submit teams, adding persuasively that since they were both half-demons, they should get along well. Luna let out a small, startled sound of surprise. Adele then stated simply, "Just say yes, and we will be on the same team." As she did not reply, deeming her silence as a yes, Adele said, "Excellent choice." Just then, Fran, the horned girl, interjected from her seat, questioning sharply, "What's so excellent about it?" Adele turned, internally wondering when she had shown up again. Fran, with a confident laugh, observed that Adele still hadn't formed a team. She then magnanimously declared, "All right, I'll accept you both, so come serve under me." Adele stated bluntly that they had just finished forming their team and asked her to please leave. Luna, looking flustered, added that Fran shouldn't be ridiculous, claiming she had heard everything from behind and questioning why Adele and Luna were standing in front of her. Fran, undeterred, declared she still couldn't acknowledge Adele's position as class president, proclaiming herself the true leader of the class with another laugh. Adele, exasperated, silently considered just rejecting her, while Fran demanded to know why he wasn't answering. However, since Fran showed no sign of giving up, Adele ultimately let her join too. The condition for Fran joining was that she would be team leader, but, as Adele internally strategized, she must always consult him before making any decisions. He mused that, still, as a child of the 7 deadly sins, it was better to keep her close. Fran, oblivious to his internal machinations, enthusiastically declared, "Trust your leader and follow me." Her pride boosted as planned, while Adele felt he was still using her a bit. 1 week later, Adele sat at his desk, reviewing a glowing blue status screen that showed his mana had increased from 1321 to 1332. He thought to himself that he needed to get an elixir or something soon, noting that while mana was one thing, he still had no grasp on the chaos attribute, hoping to get a clue in that week's magic class. A low hum emanated from him. He also reflected that, on top of everything, Crete's Solitude, a small, sleeping dragon-like artifact in a box, was becoming unstable, meaning he probably needed to carry it with him at all times now. He sighed internally about having more and more things to worry about, before adding with a sliver of relief that at least Samuel was quiet, which was a relief, glancing towards his roommate, who merely offered a non-committal sound. Despite the mounting worries about his mana, the chaos attribute, and the unstable Crete's Solitude artifact, Adele held onto a sliver of optimism, thinking internally, well, things will get better eventually. The next morning, the academy clock tower chimed as Instructor Idea entered the classroom with a cheerful good morning. Adele observed her, noting the instructor seemed particularly excited and wondering if something good had happened. Instructor Idea announced that today's class would be a little special. They were going to have outdoor practical training. Adele internally confirmed, so we're finally doing the practical training today, but then questioned if it was outdoors. The instructor elaborated, we'll be leaving Saitan and going outside. The location is called Orgon. Adele's eyes widened in recognition of Orgon as he recalled its significance. Orgon was the prison where the humans who failed to return during the Human-Demon War were held, realizing they were being taken to a detention camp. The instructor explained they would be riding a dimensional train and instructed them to follow her. Other students buzzed with excitement, one wondering what it would be like, another exclaiming that going outside even though it wasn't vacation sounded fun. Adele, however, thought darkly that everyone was excited just because it was outdoors, but once they found out what Orgon truly was, they'd be shocked. More importantly than the training itself, Adele knew something else awaited them there, the special opportunity the protagonist of the novel would soon discover in Orgon. He considered that if he went this time, he might be the one to get it first. But he also worried, questioning if he could find it while avoiding so many eyes, acknowledging that the guard's strength would be nothing to scoff at. As Adele contemplated the challenges ahead, Fran approached him, playfully questioning why he looked so stiff. She then observed, it's his first outdoor training, she guessed he must be nervous. As Adele confirmed this, Fran, feigning a casual smile, asked, so you do get nervous? As Fran, surprised, remarked, with his gloomy look, she thought, he does not get nervous. She then puffed out her chest confidently, declaring, you've got your team leader right here. Don't worry and just follow me. Adele internally sighed, thinking Fran really didn't get tired, but mused they'd see if she remained this confident in Orgon. Despite her boisterousness, he admitted to himself that thanks to Fran, he felt a little more at ease. The dimensional train sped along, sparks flying from its wheels as it transported the students. Adele, gazing out at the imposing, fortress-like structure of Orgon looming in the purple-tinged, misty landscape, reaffirmed his determination. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. No matter what happens, I'll get that opportunity.